First of all, it's great to meet everyone. Um, I'm getting old now, so it's quite. I've got to dive all the way back there. So my dad, like most people, is the reason why I played cricket because just watching him, I didn't really understand it, but he seemed to be having a lot of fun, and I literally just used to go along. He played village cricket for a club called Dunkerton, just outside of Bath, and you'll hear my West Country accent come through every now and then, I'm sure. And I just used to go and watch play about with some mates on the sideline. Didn't really understand what I was doing, but just copying what I was seeing out in the on the main ground, which is a cave field, by the way. It's it was proper, but I loved it. And then every now and then I get invited because they were short, invited to field at fine leg to fine leg. Always remember the first time the ball came to me, I stopped it with my foot, and they all had a go at me. But I loved it being on the same field, and I think I loved just the joy and the enjoyment of learning something new more than anything else. And the team, I wanted to be part of a team. I don't know why. I can't really answer that question other than the feeling of being part of something, I guess. Um, and then I was one of those talented kids. I didn't understand how I did what I did, but I copied Ian Botham. He was my hero. And I went to secondary school during the Botham's Ashes in 1981, and I remember walking past a poster of Ian Botham in full flight, bowling, and I just copied his action. I probably looked nothing like Ian Botham, but I felt like I did, and um, I just bowled and I swung the ball away, and I had no idea how I was doing it, but it looked pretty good. I was beating the bat and I was taking wickets, but didn't really understand what the hell was going on. So I got recognised and I got given opportunities. And I think when we look back, who influenced us? Parents, some teachers. So Mr. Hayward at junior school, Mr. DePledge, Mr. Mabe, Mr. Shaw. I mean, they all come in and they all kind of inspire and challenge and support and these sort of things. So if from a playing perspective, that was a reason why I started playing. I should have had a 12 to 15 year first class career. I was told I was going to play for England and all this kind of stuff. Again, had the talent apparently, but didn't have the work ethic, the drive, didn't have enough experiences of failing. So when I did fail, I didn't have anything to kind of fall back to work out why it wasn't working. So I only had a 2-year playing career, and a big part of why I have coached for 20 odd years now is at the core of it is trying to help as many people as possible not make the same mistakes as I made. Lazy, poor choices, poor diet, poor nutrition, not surrounding myself with people that challenged me, instead choosing to surround myself with people who just told me how good I was and that kind of stuff. But it didn't really help me grow. And so at the time, and so coaching, when I knew that it was over for me at the highest level, I thought I still want to be in the game. I didn't understand fast bowling, so I had to go on a bit of a journey to understand the mechanics, the science, the tactics, the psychological bit, and all this kind of stuff. I started off coaching in primary schools, but I think this whole journey from primary schools up to being really fortunate. Um, I do think you make your own luck, but World Cup finals, international cricket, travel the world. So fortunate looking back. But I do think that the start of my coaching career, coaching in primary schools, coaching the basics, organisation, language, connection, all this kind of stuff, really laid the foundations for what I needed as a coach. So, who influenced me? Family, teachers, as I'm sure most people can relate to, and then my whole journey to inspire people really is don't make the same mistakes as I made. So we we actually played cricket in junior school. Not many matches, but so junior school we played some matches in so it's state school, all boys state school in Bath, Beach and Cliff School. Very sporty, but mainly club cricket. Trialled at Somerset, trialled at Gloucestershire, had 2 years as a pro at Gloucestershire, and then when that didn't work, I carried on playing minor counties cricket. I think it's called national counties now, isn't it? So for Wiltshire, um, Lord's final there with Wiltshire, but mainly club cricket and national counties. And then I can't remember last time I played. I reckon it's 6 or 7 years ago. Wheeled me out every now and then. Well, I think if you want to play cricket, there are still opportunities to play cricket. There might not be quite as many. I was fortunate because I went to schools that played. I don't actually. Well, I think I'm right in saying that um, cricket in state schools is reducing or has reduced, but I think there's an initiative to get state schools playing again. But I do think that if you want to play, there are opportunities to play. There's um, school coaches or the county coaches that go into schools to develop cricket. There's some really, really good, obviously, coaches that coach at clubs. There are some really good outlets. So I think that there are opportunities there. My gut feeling is that so there's no more or less cricket being played. I might be totally wrong in that, and I'm sure that someone can come up with stats to challenge that view. I just think that I like multi-sport young players, and I sense that there might be a channeling of you need to become a specialist maybe too early. And and I just remember I played cricket, football, rugby, hockey, not very well, by the way, but that's just what we did. And you're learning decision making in different environments, different sports, multi-sport directions, reading a game. Do you follow the ball? Do you find space to receive the ball? Um, I just think that multi-sports is so important. And my sense is, and when I'm working with academy players, county academy players, there almost seems to be a point where they're encouraged not to play anything else other than cricket. And I believe that in terms of physical development, maturity, all of those different experiences away from the cricket ground, um, I struggle to understand how that's going to make them better cricketers. That's just me, though. Yeah. Yes. I I I wasn't very fit when I was a player. I didn't work on fitness, but when I was a professional, I had to work on fitness, but it was new. So, um, okay, I guess if I did it for long enough, I would have kind of understood how important it was to get fitter, faster, stronger. Um, I'm fitter now than I think I was at 19, 20, 21, because of the stuff that I've learned. Um, So, the harsh lessons really was if you don't work hard and you don't train hard and you don't put your work hat on and then understand when you can put your kind of play hat on and your relaxing hat on, you'll get found out pretty quickly. Um, so training is training at the highest level. And things like I always used to bowl no balls at training, thinking, well, it's only training sort of thing. But actually, what you're doing is you're gearing yourself up for failure in matches, especially when the pressure is on, because I believe you become what you repeatedly do, even in training. So my harsh lessons was didn't work hard enough, didn't surround myself with really good people, didn't train well. But we're talking about like the early '90s when actually um, we had a coach, Eddie Barlow. Actually, he's no longer with us. He was an ex-Springbok, played rugby and cricket for South Africa. Absolute beast of a man. And he would kind of, in his own way, kind of felt like bully us into doing things without me really understanding why we needed to do it. But there wasn't. We talk a lot about technique, especially when we're dealing with younger bowlers, and I think technique is really important, which I think we'll come on to. Uh, but the harsh lessons really was if you want something, you've got to work harder than you ever think. You've got to work for it, and that goes for anything in life, I think. Um, and how did I use that? Well, I vowed. I always remember it. For 2 or 3 years, I was not very nice playing club cricket on the cricket field because I was blaming everybody else for my failed playing career. And then I'll always remember it. Looked at myself in the mirror, just become a dad, and I said, right, that is never going to happen again. I wouldn't if I don't succeed at something, it will never be because I haven't worked hard enough. It will never be because I've not eaten well or drunk enough water or planned or reviewed. And it's all of those things that those that want to get or achieve the highest level possible, whether that's international or club or whatever it might be, it doesn't really matter. I vowed that I would never have an excuse of repeating the things that I did when I was a player. Um, and that was it really. So my philosophy um, is all about observing a lot, and if I observe and it reminds me of behaviours, language, and traits that reminds me of when I was a player, then I'll continue to observe. Is it consistent? And if it is, then I'll have a conversation. Just to ask, what do you want to achieve? So I had absolutely it's some harsh lessons. I loved it, by the way. 2 years as a pro, loved it. Played against and with some amazing cricketers. I played against Sachin Tendulkar on his very first tour of England when he was 16 years of age. Didn't get any runs, and I thought, what's all the fuss about? Um, played against some ridiculous players when I look back, and what a privilege. But all of those things, I don't have any regrets. It felt like some regrets at the time, but I have become who I am now because of all of those things in the past, sort of thing. Um, so yeah, I've waffled on a bit there. I hope I've answered your question. Fun. Play the game, set up competitions, be creative with drills that encourages moving well, running well, staying upright, move towards a target and present an upright scene. I'm very clear on how young players need to be coached. And it's just my opinion. Because if you're laying the foundations, unless they're having fun, there's a chance that they're not going to enjoy it. If they don't enjoy it, we might lose them to the game. And I've got this vision. I put together an 8-year, and it's just my opinion, based on everything that I've kind of picked up, an 8-year fast bowling development program. It's really high level, so it's not a lot of detail. And I've got this vision of young people, cricketers, arriving at a cricket session, and it looks like an obstacle course. You've got all the toys out, poles, hurdles, tyres, things to jump over, things to kind of, all sorts of things. And it just looks really fun. It looks like a playground, a bowling playground. And every drill is geared towards running, moving, staying upright, presenting an upright seam, and moving towards a target. No technical chat, just this is the task, find a way of doing it. So that's yeah. Hmm. I've been challenged to work with a number of academy players, like we're talking like 15 up to 18, to improve their bowling. And it's really difficult to do unless they already know how to run. And some people, it looks, you watch them run, it just looks hard work. Um, I've got this vision of future fast bowlers, and it's fast bowlers moving like 400-meter runners. The kind of words that enter my mind when I watch 400-meter runners is bounce, flow, rhythm, ease. Um, and sometimes you watch young, you know, highly talented bowlers, young bowlers move, and it looks nothing like that. And I just think that the consequence of doing that is that they are wasting and leaking a lot of energy. So they're creating energy that they are just not using. And so they're using that energy, and so they run out of energy far quicker. So their spells become shorter. They can't come back for second, third, fourth spells, all sorts of stuff. So this movement thing is so important to perform, of course, but to kind of extend those really long or those opportunities to perform for longer. You see what I mean? So running and moving is so important. So you don't waste, or you waste the least amount of energy as possible. um, with young players still. Okay, so young players, they love competition. So I would set up as many competitive things as possible. Right, you've got 5 minutes as a group of six. You are a team. You've got to run through those poles without touching them, and you've got to bowl the ball through that tyre, the other end. and we are counting how many times the ball goes through the tyre. And by the way, you've got to present the ball in an upright seam, because otherwise it doesn't count if it's wobbling. So it's a competition. You put it on a whiteboard and so on and so on. So and having fun, winning and learning will absolutely make sure they come back the next week, and that it does grow confidence. So confidence, belief and confidence, if we're not able to kind of give players that, they're going to struggle. And so what allows players to have belief and confidence? Well, it's not just performing well all the time, because if somebody's relying on that, they're not going to take 5 wickets every time. But if they're relying on that for belief and confidence, well, they're going to struggle a little bit. So I honestly believe that belief and confidence comes through inspiration, teachers, coaches, parents. It comes through keeping the promises you make to yourself. So I'm going to go to training tonight. I'm going to think about the one thing I want from that training session tonight. I'm going to tell my coach, this is what I want. Can they help me? And going home knowing that they tick that off, that builds belief and confidence. Belief and confidence can also come from, this is where you've started, this is where you are now. So I don't know those that follow me on Instagram, but I do a lot of videoing. And I share quite a lot on analysis, but I don't go into all that detail like all the time with players. But I would show them, this is where you were, this is where you are now. Look at your front arm. Look at your front arm now. You've been working on your front arm. It's a lot higher in this position, which is what we were working on. And then what you can do is you can overlap those and say, right, this is before and after. So evidence is something that can help belief and confidence as well. I don't. You want to pump tires up. Pumping tires up is really important, and telling them that actually they're really good. But I do think there's a bit of a balance. There's a bit of a point where if you do it all the time, it can go the other way, because they know it's not necessarily true. But I think that all of those things combined, the competition, the inspiration, the before and after, look at how far you've come, look at, this is where we're going, all this kind of stuff absolutely goes towards belief and confidence. There's kind of a point where it gets quite serious. So and it's still fun, but the fun becomes more in the challenge and the support and the continual growth and learning bit. So plan, do, review, I think, becomes more important if it's clear that the young player has something about them and they're training well and they're multi-sports, and there's a few rumours about them. I think that planning, doing, and then reviewing becomes really important. And the process of reviewing, all you're looking to do with every session, every match, you are looking to pull out one thing that went really well, one thing that didn't go quite so well, one thing that you really like to have a look at again, or maybe even something new that you'd like to have a look at the next training session. And one question I really like using is, given the same situation again, what would you do differently? Because even if they've done really well, there's more than one way to win that ball or to win the game. So given the same situation again, what would you do differently? And you're not allowed to do the same thing again. It just gets them kind of, that's the whole review process. So I think knowing what you want from the session, doing the session, and then it doesn't have to be extensive, literally on the drive home, chatting with the parent or the coach or whoever, or just thinking about it themselves. I think it's really important. The higher up you go, and you would know because I think Joe was on here not so long ago, isn't he? Mental. The higher up you go is a bit of a sliding scale. I think it's a lot of fun, a little bit of thinking, but you just want a lot of fun. And the better you become, it is more about the mental side, the strength, the resilience. Because you could fail time and time and time and time again. Doesn't mean you're a bad player, but mentally, how you're going to get over that and still, get yourself on the pitch again, and what have you learned, what you're going to do differently, sort of thing, until you kind of punch through and show a different side. So bowlers are there to train as well. They're not just bowling machines for batters. That's the first thing. It pains me when, um, and I get the challenges around it, when sessions are geared up for batters and bowlers. You're just going to bowl. You're just going to bowl. You're just going to bowl. Because just like batters, I think bowlers are also there to learn, and they're to be challenged and stuff as well. So a conveyor belt of fast bowlers, you bowl, you walk back, you wait your turn, you bowl. And my advice would be, um, is there a different way that you can spend time with bowlers? If bowlers aren't bowling, they're not improving. So they do need to bowl. Then there's a whole debate, conversation around workloads, because you need to bowl enough to make the body resilient. We know that um, bones like stress, um, and what stresses bones is bowling and javelin throwing and high impact, high rotation, high flexion sports. Um, but there has to be enough time afterwards for the bone to recover. So once the bone is stressed, it will, and then it has time to recover. It will grow back stronger. And this is where having too long a time off in the winter, it makes the bone softer, weaker, ligaments, tendons, all this kind of stuff. So if you're not bowling, you're not improving. So get them bowling. They're not bowling machines. So make sure that, I quite like bowling them in overs where possible. Bowl 6, have 2 or 3 minutes off, chat about what just happened, how you're going to get this batter out, what's your strategy next time. Right now, you've got a 40-yard boundary there, you've got a 75-yard boundary there. What's your tactics? Bowl to it, blah, blah, blah. So bowling in overs is quite good. But my advice would be, where possible and if possible, 'cause, sometimes people are working with big numbers of people, and it's a real challenge. I get it. Um, Work on the basics. I think that upright seam, lateral movement, safe actions, keeping them upright, keeping them moving towards a target. You're not going to go too far wrong, really. So coaching the basics, I think, can be a real point of difference moving forwards. Um, yeah, don't take their phones into the bedroom with them. That's the first one. Jason, I hope your son is still there listening to this. Um, Leave the phones outside the room. Get up 15, 20 minutes earlier than normal. Do some mobility. Get a litre of water on board first thing in the morning because you're dehydrated. So that's the first thing. No screens. Get up earlier. Do some mobility. Get moving. Drink water. And there's I can't look at it now, but under 19s. If we look at that age group and we can work back from that, playing 50 over cricket, fast bowlers who are generally fairly good throwers of the cricket ball, generally, so they filled on the boundary. So fast bowlers in a 50 over game are on their feet on average 3.25 hours. In that 3.25 hours, some of them are covering between 8 and 12 kilometers, walking, jogging, running after the ball, bowling, that kind of stuff. And so running, you mentioned it, running is a really important part of the game. The game is running. So as well as like working on their mobility, going out for 2 5-kilometer runs per week is actually going to build some really good resilience and the engine to stay on their feet and you limit the tiredness that can kick in near the end of a 50 over game. So yeah, running. And then one more thing is core strength is so important for bowlers. And so, what does core strength look like? Well, you can tag it on to your 10-minute mobility every morning. You can hold a plank for 2 minutes. You can do some like wheel rollouts or something. And in the space of 20 minutes, you've done 10 or 15 minutes of mobility. You've done 5 minutes of core strength. You've got a litre of water on board, which your body is craving because you've dehydrated overnight. And then twice a week, you're going out for 5K runs. It sounds quite a lot, but it's just habits. And I'm working with a small number of people, mostly on an online basis. And I'm coaching habits. I'm saying that now because Ben's just joined this call. It's just the habit of doing things differently. If you want to become better at bowling or anything, you have to become a slightly different person. Otherwise, you just remain the same. You always do what you've always done. And it's only ever tweaks. It's only ever tweaks. It's not massive changes. But I think out of everything, those things that I've just gone through there might sound quite drastic if you don't already do them. But commit to them for a week, 10 days, and you'd be amazed how often they just become a habit and just something you do automatically. A few years ago, I went to Chennai at the fast bowling academy there, and I spoke with a great guy, T.A. Saker. I think he's associated with one of the IPL teams. And I've just talked to him about bowling development in India at the time. And we're talking, oh, blimey, 15, 18 years ago. And he was talking me through their bowling development program. And essentially, they had a bunch of coaches across India that would go into the villages, up into the mountains, and they would take them through, I can't remember, he said 4 or 5 drills, bowling drills. And they take the kit up, cones, poles, bunch of balls, and they would speak with the kids and also the coaches there on the ground or parents or whoever it might be. Say, right, we want you to do these drills, only these drills. and we would come back next year to have a look at these players having gone through these drills every day. And some they came back 12 months later, and some were still there doing these drills. Others had fallen away because they got injured and moved out of the village or whatever. But in India at the time, and you can kind of see it, less so now, but I reckon 5 or 6 years ago, there were a lot of Indian bowlers that came out with very clean actions. There wasn't, Bumrah came along after that, but there were a lot of Indian bowlers that punched through into international cricket, where it was very up and down, good seam positions, good runners. They approached their run ups were very very similar and everything. And I'm convinced it's all about all those years before doing those five drills constantly, day in day out. So in India, I I'm not sure what they do there now, but they're very technical. You see the batters all lined up and they've got their back lift and all this kind of stuff, and that's fine. Who doesn't want to bat like Sachin or Virat, and one or two others? They all stand very similar, and they're really good players. And bowling it used to be similar. In Australia, there's more. Um, there has been more importance. I've got a turf ball here. It's placed on seam bowling as opposed to swing. It does swing, but not as much as a duke ball. And so, hitting the pitch hard to get bounce, that's their point of difference. Getting a little bit of movement, and if having the ability to present an upright seam, having the ability to just shake the seam to get lateral movement either way. But because the kookaburra ball goes soft, but the pitches are hard, um, hitting back of a length, and almost to a large degree taking the stumps out of the equation because you're bowling slightly back of a length and the ball's going over the top. But it's bounce that can get batters in trouble there. New Zealand, more like English pitches, I would say. I've never been to New Zealand, but speaking with New Zealand cricketers, whereas in this country, you tend to get a more kind of shoulders swing. So I'm all about swing, and every bowler is different, and every bowler has a preference over swing or seam. But with swing bowlers, you generally get a lot of shoulder rotation kind of there. Think Jimmy, think Hoggard, think Wokes, like shoulders going there along the pitch to get a lovely angle of the seam, whether it's that way or that way. Whereas seam bowlers tend to get a lot of kind of vertical. This shoulder gets up, sort of allows the bowler to get the ball into the pitch. But it's quite interesting if you stand behind the bowler in their run up and just watch the shoulders. If they do that, absolutely work with them on their swing skills. But if they kind of do that a little bit, and both types of bowlers are equally as good, but it's about can we make that consistent? I don't actually know if that's answered your question, but in Bangladesh when I was there, they had no idea at the time how to look after fast bowlers. So Taskin Ahmed, I'm still in contact with him now. He came out of nowhere, but nobody knew how to use him because it was all geared up for spin. And so he was bowling long spells, searing heat, injury after injury after injury. Didn't know how to kind of train him physically. But thankfully now they've got a lot better at looking after their fast bowlers. But I guess it's all about education, really. So I think in general, around the world, what ball are they using? We tend to make a lot of fuss about using the kookaburra ball in this country and stuff, don't you? But it might not be suited because of the conditions. It might be more suited in Australia because the pitches are harder and they bounce a little bit more. But I think in general, lateral movement, at whatever length, in general, that bowler needs to land the ball on that pitch to get the batter playing a full defensive. That's my kind of thing. And you just adapt depending on what part of the world you're in and what ball you're playing with, really. That's my long-winded kind of answer, really. put me on the spot now, aren't you? I can't think of any one right arm fast bowler because they're all different. They were the ones that I've worked with. I mean, I'm thinking of, more recently Wokes, um, and then, a few of the Surrey boys when I was there, Craig Overton. They're all slightly different. Um, I worked earlier on today with a left arm seamer that it was the first time I worked with him. And he excites me a lot. I kind of see something, I think, wow. And it's just like, it's one of those kind of moments. And I can't fully explain what he was doing other than it's that there's something about how they get from back foot to front foot with real kind of purpose. It's almost like the back bowling in that direction. The back leg is almost like a table leg and they get off it quickly and it stays upright. There's no sinking because then bowlers struggle to stay upright through into front foot contact. But they almost use their back leg to propel themselves into front foot. And it was a little bit about that today. Left arm, I love watching Mitchell Starc. I love his approach, the way he runs. For a tall bloke, he's an absolute beast of a man, but he glides. And it's almost like, his feet are on feathers. I quite like cues and the kind of cues that I use for running to give people cues as opposed to a knee lift and this part of your foot and this kind of stuff is imagine you're running on broken glass, so you have to get off it quickly. Imagine running in long grass where you have to have a knee lift and then your foot hits the floor and you go again. Or imagine running in shallow water, that kind of stuff. Mitchell Starc, a lot of the Australian guys actually, and girls, play multi-sports. So we go back to that again. They move really well. But I think that I mentioned Mitchell Starc at this session I did earlier on today, watching him running. It looks effortless, but obviously it's not. But he's using as much of what he generates in his run-up as he possibly can. I worked with John Lewis at Gloucestershire a number of years ago. He had real issues with his running technique, clunky, felt a bit off. And he went to work with a high jump coach. And he came back from the high jump coach just with a simple look up, visualize the ball you're going to bowl, hit my mark, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, bowl. And that was really kind of bouncy as well. And obviously it was 9 steps for John. That's not going to be the case for everybody. But simple cues, I think helps. So I'm going to sit on the fence with right armers, but Mitchell Starc, I think left armers, just the way he approaches, and he's clearly a high-end operator when he releases the ball as well. But I do think that we underestimate the impact of how somebody enters the crease. We focus a lot on what happens through the crease, but that is often dependent on how they enter it. So I don't think we can underestimate the value of just doing a bit of work on the way they run, the way they move.
So, just one from me of like, do you think it's important to see fast bowlers bowl fast or work on the accuracy first and then the pace?
What age are we looking at here?
Just so for a new fast bowler that says that they want to bowl fast, is it more important to work on getting the ball through fast or work on accuracy first?
It's a great question because lots of people at the moment are obsessed with pace. There are 4 pillars of performance. pace, accuracy, lateral movement, and bounce. And you need bowlers to have at least 2 ticks in those 4 boxes. All right. So you think Mark Wood, he's clearly got pace. Has he got accuracy most of the time, but not all the time? And he's got lateral movement most of the time, but not all the time. But the quicker you are, the less important those other kind of ticks need to be. The slower the bowler you are, the more important it becomes to be lateral movement, accuracy, and bounce. So it really all depends on the individual. Pace is the exciting one, of course it is, but I would, not to the detriment of having an absolute train crash of an action, because somebody could bowl the ball really fast, but have a really unhealthy looking action. And unhealthy generally is that position at ball release. If there's lots of side bend, that generally is an unhealthy action. And they might even not even be injured at the time. But what we're doing as coaches is we're trying to keep them as upright as possible, chest at the target, hips square onto the target, and ripping down and over their hips. So to answer your question, I would definitely look at pace first, but I would definitely keep an eye on their action and their seam position. Working with young seamers, I think teaching them how to move the ball laterally is going to be one of the bowler's answers to batters being creative. So batters these days are looking to hit the ball minimum 120 metres and hit the ball 360. So what are the bowlers going to do? Well, changes of pace, of course, taking the stumps out of the equation, wide Yorkers and all this good stuff could all be really good options. But I think that bowlers that have the knowledge and the skill to swing the ball or cut the ball or, seam the ball laterally always have a chance, because we're trying to do everything we can to keep the ball away from the middle of the bat. and if the ball is doing something laterally off the pitch or in the air, you've got a hell of a chance of doing that. So I think that, pace, health of the action, and presenting an upright seam. I sometimes think that, I ask bowlers, what do you do? Yeah, I bowl wobble seam all the time. And I'm like, well, can you bowl an upright seam? Yeah, I can do that. And they can't do it. I think that true wobble seam is born from a bowler's ability to present an upright seam that doesn't wobble. This is just my opinion. And I always think that bowlers that bowl with a wobble seam, it can be a bit of a cop out, because they just can't present an upright seam. And if you think about why that's important to me, to present an upright seam, your fingers have to literally be, it's almost like slicing the ball in half through the middle, and that's how you get maximum pace. And if the ball is not swinging, all you can do is one of two things. You can just tweak your grip a little bit, so you're still looking to get the same feel of your upright seam, but because you've tweaked the seam, it's going to come out like that, and all you're looking to get is a small little flicker. So that's one option, just rotate the seam slightly. Or you could do something that works for some bowlers. You can just increase the width or the space between those two fingers at the top, and literally as the ball comes off those two fingers, you're still looking to get your fingers through the middle of the back of the ball, but because you've got a little bit of a gap in between, it can just have the effect of that. So Liam, pace, health of the action, and the skill of lateral movement for sure. That's not really. I think you can work into accuracy. You really can. But I think that if somebody's got pace, you work with pace and move them into accuracy and lateral movement.
No, that answers that great. Thank you. Mix. Joseph.
It's frozen.
Is it?
Mm.
Really good then?
Yeah, we got you. We got you. Ish.
So I was the first one. Um, lateral flexion in a bowler, something I've always suffered with, and just your tips in terms of trying to correct that, prevent injuries. Yeah, some sort of drills for that. And I guess, yeah, I suppose there are moving patterns that you can to assess what someone might be.
Right, the first question I've got to ask you is where are you living? Because I love that accent. I can relate to it.
Bristol.
Yes, I was there last week. I was doing some work at the county ground in Bristol. Yeah.
Yeah, I played pictures at school before as well. They always used to be
Have
at
you really? Sorry about that. Okay, lateral flexion. So everything happens for a reason, and a bowler that falls over, essentially, they don't just do that. It normally happens 2 or 3 frames before. So it might be that they are running, they're running in the wrong direction. So for instance, a bowler is running towards the target, which is the stumps, but then for some reason they change direction and they start running towards leg slip. So they're now running down the batter's leg side, right-handed batter. In order to get back online with a target, and the brain is a brilliant thing, once you've decided, I want to bowl the ball in that direction, it will find a way of doing it. So one of the things is check out the direction that you or the bowler that you're working with, are they actually moving towards a target and are they jumping towards a target? Because you can be running towards a target but jumping in a different direction. So that bowler that is now moving towards kind of leg slip, they then can do one of two things. They can fall away to get back online with a target, or they can lower their release point and kind of sling it back around them to get back online with a target. So that's the first. So my answer is whatever you see or whatever you are doing is happening for a reason. It's about working through a bit of a process. What is causing what you are doing? So it might be technique, but it also might be a lack of leg strength or core strength to keep you upright. And just a few of the things that are really important to stay upright is leg strength, glute strength, core strength. So the glutes are the last line of defense to keep a bowler upright. And if you think about it, they're running, so there's energy and there's movement there. And then they're jumping and they're landing and they're then bounding from back foot to front foot, trying to stay upright. And you can only do that by having strong legs, calves, quads, hamstrings, glutes, and core. And if there's any weakness in that chain, there'll be adjustments that are made because the brain still knows that you want to bowl the ball straight if that's what you're doing. Yeah, it could also be the other way. If you jump out towards gully, the only real option you've got to get the ball back online with a target is to fall away even more to get on the inside of the ball to get the ball back in there. So my advice, Joseph, whether it's you or whether it's anybody, what is lateral flexion? We'll talk about that in a minute. Is it's normally because they've changed direction. They are no longer moving towards the target, which is the stumps. So what is causing that? Work that one out and you're in business.
Cool. Thank you, Joseph. Liam, nice son again. Sorry, you spoke earlier about bowling plans, and I just wondered how important you think they are for bowlers and what type of bowling plans you recommend or put in place.
Are you talking about in training or in matches?
in both, I suppose you've got to practice them in training to implement them in matches.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So let's go training to start with. So let's hypothetically set up a training session here. So you've got a bowler that's going to bowl 8 overs, let's say, maybe a spell of 6 and a spell of 2, and on average, that bowler would take a wicket every 8 overs. So you say to the bowler, right, your task is to get a minimum of one wicket tonight in your 8 over spell, and that's all you've got. Um, if they're an opening bowler, see if you can just find a new ball somewhere and give them a new ball for 2 overs, and then you can give it to somebody else because they need to practice bowling with a new ball. So they've got 2 overs with a new ball. Set the field. I'll say that they're a swing bowler. So okay, you've got to get this ball swinging from ball one. If you don't, that ball goes to somebody else, and something something like that. So for 2 overs, you are looking to nick them out, get them out, however you look to get them out for 12 balls. Okay, then you get a slightly older ball, and then you say, right, okay, the game situation now is the opposition are no wickets down and they're going at 6 and over. So we've got to work out which of these two batters do we want to bowl to. So for overs number 3 to 4, his task is if the batters are bowling in pairs, batting in pairs, get the main batter who's scoring all the boundaries off strike. So the skill becomes the skill of going for a single and then bowling more balls to the ball that you want to the batter that you want to. So that all of a sudden you're building up a plan, which is absolutely what you would consider doing in a game as well. And then if he hasn't got any wickets by the end of his first spell, 6 overs, review it, and then you can bring him back on for 12 more balls, bowling at the death, where he's got to defend 9 runs and over or something like that. So I think training bowling plans are all about what do we encounter in a game that we really need to practice. And if it's taking more wickets with the new ball, you dig out as many new balls as you can and you try and work out who your best new ball bowlers are. I'm saying all of these things like assuming that new balls are coming out your ears and all sorts of stuff, by the way. And I understand that is not the case. I absolutely do. Getting them bowling with red and white balls to a plan could be, right, the plan tonight is you're going to bowl competitively against the batters, but you're going to be working towards bowling with an upright seam or a wobble seam, whatever it might be. So bowling plans really, what do we need to be better at in matches? And then you piece together a training plan that reflects, the one thing. If we can improve this one thing, it'll have the biggest impact on the result of the game. In matches, I believe a starting point is always getting the batter to play a forward defensive. Because if you think about what needs to be in place for that, what needs to be a good length ball near the stumps. Um, and I think that's a starting point. And then you start saying, okay, I swear that was a full length ball. That was a good full length ball. But the batter's played on the back foot. And then you say, right, okay, how far up can I bowl this ball and get them playing at a forward defensive? And it might just be that they're a back foot batter. But you're bowling against somebody else that you bowl, what feels like a short of a length ball, but they're playing on the front foot. So then all of a sudden you're getting bowlers thinking at the back of the net, I need to slightly change my lengths depending on who I'm bowling to. So, bowling plans, the starting point is getting playing forward defence. And then what have bowlers found about how they might have to change the length that they bowl to get batters play a forward defence? And then you could say things like, right, now you're going to bowl with rubbish old ball. It's not going to swing. It's not going to do anything. Can you beat the outside edge of the bat? I don't care how you do it. Find a way of doing it. I mean, these are all kind of things. Can you create an angle on the seam? Can you beat the inside half of the bat, inside edge of the bat? Can you beat that? And actually, once every 8 balls, I want you to bowl a bouncer as well to scramble your length and stuff. So I think bowling plans. I think it's just a case of, coaches, players thinking about what do we encounter in a game, what we're already good at, and what do we need to improve on, and that forms the basis of a training plan. And you already know that you want to improve that in a game as well. It doesn't take a lot of time. What we're good at, what do we need to improve? And you base your plan on that, really. Good, good question. I'm conscious of I'm saying a lot and throwing a lot of stuff. I know it's being recorded, so apologies. I kind of I feel it's my duty to impart a lot of stuff, but it's just my opinion. It's not the right nor the wrong opinion. It's just my opinion, and I'm more than happy to be kind of challenged on any of it.
Jason, right. Well, a slightly more light-hearted question. What's your best bowling figures in any format of the game?
I know exactly what it is. It was 7 for none. It was a school game. Windy conditions. I know exactly where it is. It's on the playing field just along from where Mum and Dad still live. I picked the right end, got the right ball. 7 for none. Senior cricket, 7 for 45, something like that. But it's interesting because looking back, I think more about the game now as a coach than I ever did as a player. I just used to run in and bowl, but my intention was to hit those stumps. That was the starting point, to hit the stumps. And then when I got a little bit older, every now and then try and hit them in the chin. I was going to say hit them in the head, not intentionally, but just to get the batter thinking slightly differently than just playing on the front foot. So I would show the batter, I'm going to get you on the back foot, and hopefully then that would lead into a wicket because they'd be more tentative to get on the front foot when otherwise a way swing bowler. But my intention was to always challenge the stumps. Majority of my career, I wasn't very good when I had to come away from them. It's always quite nice to get a question like that, just reminiscing.
It's Jason. Any questions? Sadie, welcome. Please fire away.
Hi, Stuart.
Hi.
I arrange cricket festivals for under 13s, and what I find is that some of my players really enjoy spin bowling at the simple pace, but at that age range, that I find that the pace bowlers get more wickets than the spin do, and for me, it's all about I really want retention, participation, especially at under 13s level. I don't want to lose kids, so I find I think myself, should I be guiding them and trying to get them to do a bit more pace bowling, or do I just leave them and let them if they just want to try spin? But I said when they just knock that part. What's your view on that?
Some of the best spin bowlers, and I'm going to talk about finger spin. Some of the best finger spin bowlers, in fact, most of them started out as pace bowlers. And I think that there's something about, why is that? That's the question, isn't it? Bowling pace can encourage strong actions. Ashley Giles, the classic, and I'm sure that there's many other examples as well. He was a left-arm pace bowler until it became clear that he was never going to be, ridiculously fast. Although if you ever met him, he was an absolute giant of a man. He should have bowled a lot quicker as a seam bowler. But I do think that there's a good conversation to be had around the benefits of bowlers practicing pace, knowing that at some point, most, if not all, can also practice spin as well. because the skill of spin cannot be underestimated, but it comes from a strong action. And to answer your question around, keeping them interested in things, there's a difference, I think, between a spin bowler and a bowler that just rolls their fingers, because we're looking to really encourage a lot of rotation on the ball, and that takes strength in itself. And then you go back to what are the traits of well coached seam bowling for youngsters that can then be carried across into spin. It's a really interesting one, but do they spin the ball or do they just roll the ball? I really like spin bowlers being looked after, I'll be honest. So if somebody has made a commitment, I'm going to be a spin bowler, is it possible to have bigger boundaries? Is it possible to, for coaches, when it feels like, is winning the game or losing the game the most important thing? No, of course it's not at that level. You're not going to be defined by winning or losing then. But, can we be defined by, do you know what, that spinner's gone for 12 and over, but they bowled 2 balls that ripped past the side of the bat, the edge of the bat. So are there ways that we make it okay for spinners to get hit out the park, knowing that actually all we really, really want you to try here is to get as many revs on that ball as possible. Let me check your grip. Okay, now get your finger right over the top of the ball. That's all I want you to do. I think there's ways that we can work with spinners to keep them in the game and not get too disheartened, and also their teammates, because the team has got to kind of understand, this is how we're going to use this spinner today. If he gets hit out in the park, that's your fault, not this bowler's fault. But you're working with them, spin as opposed to just kind of rolling. I fear with young spinners just being accurate without really looking to rip it. There's no doubt at all that at age group level, spin bowlers have a massive part to play, because a good spin bowler just wins matches for fun. But it's spin that's the key, I think. I don't know of many now, but spin only matches and pitches being prepared for spin. If you're practicing on grass, or even if you're not, find a patch of grass and just move the batter's stumps back a little bit, so actually the ball is landing in the chewed up area that batters would normally stand in. And so the spin bowlers have got a target to aim for, and they might still be rolling it but trying to spin it hard, but the reaction of the pitch would just set them alight because it's turning and bouncing, if you see what I mean. And there's other things you can do as well. Again, I'm droning on, you've got me going. You get a load of cones, work out what a good length is, and you get a load of cones, both the right way up and the wrong way up, and you put it on what could be, if the left arm seamer was bowling the other end, their kind of follow through. So it's outside the right-handed batter's off stump, but it's on like first and second stride follow through sort of thing. It just an area. And the spin bowler, your task tonight is to create an angle, go as wide on the crease as you can. You're still looking to target the stumps, but get the ball into that area, because if you get the ball into that area, it will hit a cone. It might stay low if it hits the down slope of a cone, but it might spin and bounce if it hits the up. So something that gives them a bit of, so they're in the game. So there's various kind of creative things that you can do, but more than anything else, coaching them, the grip for spin, the finger action and the wrist action for as much revolutions as possible. And there's some really good spin coaches out there.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Stuart.
I suppose I've just been given a warning there that my tree club is about to close. So, do you find out if does anybody else have any questions before we before we depart? And honestly, thank you very much, Stuart. It's been absolutely fascinating talk. I'm sure you guys are aware Stuart's very active on Instagram and on the community as well. So I'm sure if you do have any follow-up questions or anything over the next couple of days, then by all means, drop a question in the community or follow up on Instagram. If everyone is good, no more questions.
I need to be better in the community. Actually, that's something that I commit to doing better.
Thank you very much. He's doing a great start, a great start on Australia. So thank you very much for that. Well, the recording will be on the community tomorrow morning. And thank you very much, Stuart. Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate you taking time to listen this year. I hope you'll have a good rest of your evening. Just again, thank you very much, Stuart.
No worries. I've loved it. I've verbal diarrhea, so I hope you've enjoyed it.
No, it's great. Thank you.
All right. Have a good evening. See you. Cheers. See you.
Thank you. Thank you.
$11 of you. You not got better things to do. Okay, I'm just so that was a Q&A within the Root Academy community. For those that are interested, get yourselves in there because Joe pops up in there every now and then. And it's just a community that just shares a load of stuff. It's also something that I, over time, will be looking to build in here as well for those absolute cricket badgers like you all are, all 11 of you. Jaden Levitt, what an absolute pleasure to have you here. Suan, how was your experience of making your Test debut? I wish I did. Wolfgang, Roy, I'm really sorry I read that straight away as Boy George. I'm glad. How was your experience in making your Test debut for England, and what did you learn from the whole experience? Well, in my dream, I made my Test debut at Lord's. I ran in from the nursery end using this slope, big away swingers, and I nicked out the Australians for fun. Got a fifer, got myself on the honours board. Okay. Any questions before I go? I've shared quite a lot there on the community. I'm really sorry. I started off wearing these, and I kind of think, why did I do that? Because you weren't able to hear the questions. Okay. Hope you enjoyed it. Watch out for more coming soon. 11. What a privilege to have 11 of you spend your evening with me in the Premier Inn. I always travel my own pillow just to try and help me sleep better. What a privilege to have you here in my Premier Inn room. Whatever you're doing today, hope you change the world. Whatever you're doing tomorrow, hope you change the world. Do the basics well, sleep well, get hydrated first thing in the morning. Thanks for joining me. Catch you soon.